When my mother called, there was only one response. First, I'll tell you what were not acceptable responses. The most unacceptable response was, "What?" The second most unacceptable response was, "I'm coming." Words of any sort were not the acceptable response. There was only one acceptable response. What do you think that was? Get there to wherever she was calling from. She didn't want to hear, "I'm coming," or even worse, "just a minute," or "what?" You could stay where you were in your room doing whatever you should have been doing and keep yelling, "What? What? What?" into a lengthening silence, because there was only one call. She only called your name once, and that was it. Then it was your job, your duty, and in your best interests, I might add, to get to wherever she was, and then, as you say, "Yes, Mom." She was not interested in excuse, delay, "Wait a minute, I'm coming." The call meant you went to wherever the voice called and waited for instruction, or worse, perhaps, a little ticking off or something. Thankfully, when our Father, our parent in heaven, calls us, it's an entirely different thing. And we see in these call stories before us today that thankfully, our Father in heaven is a much more lenient and patient parent, perhaps, than the parents we might have enjoyed growing up. God comes to us. We don't have to go. God comes to us wherever we are to call us out. We might be like Isaiah, sitting in church, sitting in the temple, contemplating life. Isaiah was an aristocrat, came from an aristocratic prophetic family. He enjoyed time in the temple, sitting there in a seat of honor. Maybe he did what I do when I'm visiting other churches. While the sermon's going on, I'm usually looking at the stained glass windows and reading them. I'm always interested to see the names of the families that were part of that Christian community. I look at the dates and I figure out how old they were when they got married, how old they were when they died, how old the children were. And I sort of distract myself instead of paying attention, which is what I should be doing. So Isaiah was in the temple. He was already of a faithful, holy, prophetic family when God called him. You might be actively working against the church, as Paul was when God called him. He was a non-believer. He was persecuting the church. He thought Christians were just another heretical sect that would go away. We know he was present at the stoning of Stephen, one of the first martyrs of the church. We know that he actively persecuted Christians, thought what they believed in was nonsense, because his learning, his rabbinical learning, told him that everything they had to say could not possibly be right, because the Messiah would not be a man who would be born in a cave, humble carpenter's son, then tortured and crucified and died. But God persisted with Paul. Paul was on vacation when the Lord called him, traveling up to Damascus, and intervened and called him in a rather dramatic fashion. Or he might be like Peter, who, despite the fact that he had already seen Jesus in action, was a bit slow to respond. Jesus had been in Capernaum, already healing, preaching, demonstrating his power. He had just healed Peter's mother-in-law. Maybe that's why Peter had gone off him his head. But suddenly, Jesus appears at work. Peter's at work. He's a fisherman. He's been out at night because that's when the best fishing was available. They fished at night in deep waters. But they had caught nothing. So Jesus shows up, and God calls Peter, literally, while he's at work. And God isn't really dismayed that Peter doesn't really get it. He's not really dismayed that this is his second attempt. Because God needs people like Peter. People who are hardworking, disciplined, follow the routine, but every now and then get a little excited and go off piste. This won't be the first time Peter will deny the Lord, come back to the Lord, deny the Lord, but Peter will keep on going because of a combination of simple upbringing, hard work, and his fisherman's background. The good news for us is not only does God call us where we are, come to us, find us, seek us out, he also doesn't really care what we think our capabilities are. He doesn't really care whether we think we can do the job or not. Because as the psalmist tells us today, he'll perfect in us the thing he wants us to do. We may think that we don't really want to answer God's call because, like Isaiah today, once we've answered, we find out the task isn't that attractive. Isaiah is called out to tell people that their entire world is going to be laid waste. Not a single house is going to be left standing. Every tree is going to be felled. Basically, Jerusalem is going to look like the lot over in Caledon after the explosion. There will be nothing left. So Isaiah, having a happy day sitting at the temple, is now been called out to tell people that their entire life is going to be laid waste by God. Not an attractive proposition. But Isaiah listens to the end, in which God says, and then, once you have everyone's attention, once people are focused back on me, I'm going to start again. And from that remnant, a new world will be built. Isaiah is so in tune with God that he names his two sons the worst names you could ever name anyone. His first son is called Only a Remnant Shall Remain. That's his name in translation. The other son is named Spoiled Seed, Prey Coming. In other words, your life is wasted because a ravening animal is going to come and bring you down. That's what Isaiah names his children. This is a prophet. And we think, oh, as we hear in his own scroll, I'm here to bring good news, light to blind. But God has called Isaiah out for a difficult task that he's not unprepared for because of his learning, because of his status, because he has the ear of kings. And he will do his best to save his country, and in fact save Jerusalem from entire annihilation. Because he spoke, delivered the message, and the king heard. We might be like Paul and think we have nothing to recommend us. In fact, we're worse than nothing. Paul, the translation of Paul's words here is that I'm like a miscarriage. The Greek translation is I'm basically a miscarriage, an abortion. I'm that bad. God doesn't care. God is going to use Paul, who thinks he's an outcast, to gather in a whole remnant of people who had been told they were outcasts. Paul's ministry will be to the Gentiles, to those who were considered outside salvation, outside the law, outside value, outside of everything that was valued. Or maybe we're like Peter, in a sense. It's not that we don't think we have anything to offer. We're just not sure we want to offer it up. We might look around and think, someone's better at this. Someone's been doing it longer. Someone can do a better job. So-and-so will never leave that job, so I don't have to worry. I don't have to do anything. Or I'm just not sure. I don't really know enough. sure what I believe. On a good day, maybe I don't believe anything. On an indifferent day, I'm willing to be convinced. On a great day, I can preach the gospel. But that changes. So maybe I'm not as on the solid ground as I'd like to be. So I better step back and let someone else answer that call. As the hymn we just sang reminded us, and as the psalmist tells us today, we don't have to worry. God will take what we have to offer and refine it and make it right. It's a great refrain in the song. God will make good purpose. The Lord will make good his purpose for me. God will continue to work and persevere until you get it right, until I get it right. All we have to look out for is what's the next right thing for me to do. For God, for his church, and for the body